Okay, we'd like to write a generic class called myMathClass with a type t, where t is a numeric object type, which means integer, double, or any class that extends the number, java.lang number. So let's just do that. So I'm going to create, this is new project, week 7 exercise 2. Let's create a new class that I call myMathClass. It stopped and it's back. And this should be having a parameter t, type parameter t. That means now I'm forcing you to use a specific name for this t that extends the number. Notice that in the question it was mentioned java.lang.number, and by default everything from java.lang you don't need to include it because it's included by default. So I don't need to have some kind of import java.lang java.lang.number because wow, that's nice. Import java.lang dot, okay. Everything that comes from here, I'm able to use it without any import. You see something familiar? Arithmetic exception, array index out of bound exception. It's there because I can just use them immediately because everything is in java.lang, and there's a lot of things from java.lang, boolean, byte, and a lot of them. Anyways. So now I said that this mine class number is extending the number. That's my t is extending the number. And I'd like to add a method called standard deviation that takes an array list of type t. So this method is going to be public probably, and returns as double the standard deviation of the values of the array list. So I'm going to use that. Let's say this is going to return double value, and it's called standard deviation, and it takes an array list of the type t. So this is my array, I will call it list, for example, or array list, whatever. So I need to return the standard deviation. What is the standard deviation? Well, it says use the double value method in the number class to retrieve the value from each number as a double. Refer to this project or this site for a definition of computing the standard deviation. You know how to compute the standard deviation? Is what? It's an average of the distance between each value and the average. You know what the standard deviation is? No. That's nice. Okay, let's make it average. How about that? Let's just alter this to make this to be an average. I just need to include the array list because it's from the util, java.util, and then I'm importing it. And then what if it's just, and I would like to return just the average, okay? Because actually the standard deviation is the distance, the average distance between, anyways, let's just forget about it. Let's just calculate the average. How about that? Now, I just need to calculate the average, so I'm going to have some kind of double average, and I'm going to return this average. Now, how to calculate the average? I need to have the sum of every element of the array. How do I get to do the sum? Well, fine, let's just make simple now. Sum, and then we can improve later. And then if I'd like to calculate the sum of all the elements, what should I do? There's a loop. For loop, because a for loop is going to be more appropriate. For what? Array or list, because I called it list dot size. What should I do? Sum plus equal list dot get I. Because of? Yeah, what's the problem with the size? It's 0. Well, I don't know, because it depends on when I'm going to call this method. I'm going to give an array list, and that array list, if it's empty, is going to be 0, but if it's not empty, it's not going to have something. So now I don't know. I'm just saying, just give me an array list. If it's empty or not, I don't know. I don't care. I just would like to, if I'm assuming that there's an array list, there might be something inside of it, and then I'm going to make it work like this. Now the problem, the adding the values should be done outside. I'm going to declare an array list somewhere. Like, let me just remind you of, for example, what we did here. Remember the sorting thing. Now, this here, this array, do I know how many, what's the elements, what's the size? No, I'm just saying I don't care about the size. I say that I'm going to assume that I'm going to have an array, and I'm working with it. Now, where this array is going to be initialized? Inside here? No. I'm going to initialize it outside, and then when I call, I just call and send the array inside the method so it can be processed. Okay? So I'm going to do the same thing here. I'm just assuming that the array is going to be given to me. Now here, from here, in the main, I'm going to prepare the initialize the array. But I'm not there yet. I'm assuming that the array is going to be given to me, and that's this list here. Now the problem is this line here. What's the problem? It says bad operand type of binary operator plus first type is double, because the sum, I'm having sum equals sum plus, so the first time is double, where t, and the second is type t. What is t? It just extends number, but I don't know what it is. No, I just make this to be, for example, double. Well, it worked because it's a number, but it's not the best way. But even though I was surprised that it works, a lot of surprises this afternoon. You remember what we did with this calculator? Because it extends number, this is going to be of type t that extends number. So if this dot is going to give me all the methods that are coming from number, and one of them is the double value, which means that this get I is going to be of type t, because I said that this array list is having type t. Every element of it is of type t. What is t? I don't know, but it extends number, so it inherits everything from number, which means it has all the methods that are available from number, which are all these bold ones, you see. But has also something that comes from object, because everything inherits from object. So, but I don't care about this. What is interesting for me, to me, is this double value here. Now, what I'm using this double value, this is going to be taking this t, whatever type it is, if it's an integer or a double, is going to be converted to a double, and then going to be used. It's a black screen again. I think there's a problem with the network. It goes and it comes and goes, and that's why you have that. Yes.
Can we do it with the new for loop?
Yes. I will do that. Yes, with the for each. Yes, I will do it, inshallah. Actually, for this type of things, it's better to use this for each, because I think it seems it's simpler to write. I find it more simple to write and follow. Now it's back on. Now what this does now, it just calculates the sum, and then once I have the sum, the average is the sum divided by the what? List.size. Yeah, I didn't hear you. I just need to spell it right. Size. And then I'm returning the average. Now, if I'd like to use this, let's just try that. I'm going to create a new myMath class. But you see, this whole thing has just one method. I could make it static, but fine, let's just forget about this for now. So this is, what is the data type that I would like to use? double, and then I'm going to call it like this: obj equal new my math class double, even though it's not there, but anyways. And then this is the same as this, but I'm always doing this for now until I know the exact difference between the diamond representation, as they call it. Now I need to call this method, but what's this? I don't have any list, so I need to declare first this kind of array list, so before I can call this method. So I need to have an array list. So the array list should be having the same data type of this double, because I said that I'm going to have an array list of double. Let's call it array, just to change. Equal new array list of double, and just like this. And for now I'm just going to leave it like this, even though it seems like it's the same, like without putting anything. But now I need to add some elements to this, so I can make it in a loop, just to add 10 numbers, for example, and then array.add. I need to add numbers that are double. I, but I is an int, so IC int. Change I to double. Problem solved. Because now I is not, don't get confused, this I is not an index. This I is a value. So just to avoid the confusion, I'm going to name it value. Leave it as I. I'm just having a value, double value, that starts from 0 and then it's less than 10, and the value is going to be incremented and the value is going to be added to here. I think it's much clearer than I. I generally is confusing because we always put I to be some kind of an index, and I don't want it to be confusing. Allow them. If you find it confusing, just put the I in your code. So now this array can be sent to here. And this returns a number, which means I need to display that if I would like to see it. And this is what I'm going to do. And you know what? Let's display that array, those values, so I can see them actually. So I will see the values and then I'll see the average. Like this. Add what? It doesn't matter. I mean, add it to the array, then print it on the screen, or print it on to the screen, and then add. It doesn't matter because these two are not related to each other. I can display on the screen first and then add the value to the array, or add the value to the array first and then display on the screen. At the end of the day, I just need to do both of them. So it doesn't matter if you just swap these. Let's run. So these are the values from 0, 1, 2, 3, 4 until 9, and then the average is 4.5. What if now I make it integer? Just change this to be int now, because it will work now with int, and this should work with int because it was not, I said the array should be the same data type. And now if I run, it just, this is divided by, so it's 1 plus etc plus 9 divided by 2, that's 4.5, because it should be in the middle of these two. That's 4.5. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and then 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So the middle, the average is 4.5. Okay? Now, that's all, let's say. So your question is not standard deviation, let's forget about it, but the standard deviation is you need to take the distance between every element of the array and the average. So let's not deal with it. Let's make it simple so everybody's happy. I don't care about all these things. Now, what I'd like you to be able to do is just to deal with this thing. It seems easy, right? Here?
Yes.
Like you'd like to do,
Initialize it as a sum.
okay, divide by this list.size? Well, what's inside of sum? First of all, it's not declared, so I need to declare it before.
Okay.
Okay, fine. But it's just 0.
Yes, I know.
So 0 divided by
I number.
is 0. But basically what you need to do is this. You need to calculate the sum. Then you can do this, which is basically what we're doing. Except that I was just declaring everything on top and then...
Can we have
And actually, you know, I can simplify this better. But let's check the questions first, then I'll simplify it. Yes.
can we have without it taking a generic class, just to make a generic method, like t extend number before the double and return from.
Here?
No, about name of the class, my math class.
Okay.
Yeah, we take this part, t extend number.
Yes.
Put it before.
In the method.
Yeah, the method.
Now it becomes not the generic class, it becomes a generic method. Yes. That's a good point. In this case, it makes sense because I have only one method. So it does not really need to have... so it could be like this generic method here. It will do the same work. It will work exactly the same way. Now, a couple of things I would like to show, to talk about. First of all, for basic things, I don't need all these variables. I just need one of them. I can do this. Right? So just calculate the sum and then you return the sum divided by the size. Now the second thing is when you have this array list, I think it's clearer when you use a for each instead of for. And for each is actually, you see if you type for each and then no. Okay, it doesn't help. So the for each is like this. This one for each element, and then you see it's going to be for me, and I mean what I mean it. It's going to be much easier. This is exactly the same as this. Proof first. Oops, what happened? And then we discussed it. First of all, I'm just going to run the same thing. And here we go. Same result, same thing. Now, what's the difference? And then I'll take your question. The difference is that this is doing what? For every element, I'm just going to rename this maybe to something more than t. For every element of the list, what's the data type of that element? Every element of the list is t. Why? Because this array list have a data type of t. So for every element from that list, take that element, convert it to a double, and add it to the sum. I think this is much shorter to type first, because you're not typing this size and you don't get into get and then this double thing. And you see it's much simpler, but what does this do? Regardless of your array list, it's going to traverse all elements of the array list one by one, starting from the first one until the last one. It takes the first one, is going to put it inside of this variable element. Well, what's the data type of this variable? Well, t, because everything inside of this list is t. So it's going to take this element and then do something with it, convert it to a double, add it to the sum. Go to the next element from the array list, put it inside this variable, convert it to a double, and so on. So which one do you think is much easier? This one or this one? So whatever you find easier, you use it. Yes? Well, if you wrote string, that means here it's string instead of t. Well, I need to check the code. It depends on what you did. Yeah. That's the end of the question.
Can you remind us how to set elements is inside the array.
How to do what?
Insert elements in the array. Add,
The add thing?
I need to create my own array instead of from 0 to 10.
Okay, instead of using a for loop now, just to make sure that I understand your question, you would like to be able to add elements to that array list without a for loop, right? Well, that's this thing. Now, what are the elements in that array? Another one? Oh, that's fine, that's okay. We're here to learn, that's why we... There's new things you forget, you just need to confirm, that's fine. Am I answering your question? Yeah, just the values were just 0, 1, 2, 3 until 9. Now I'm just put the values myself. Or what I could do, instead of doing this way, see, I can just, instead of being the value, I'm going to make it random. How about that? So this is multiplied by, but now this doesn't make sense. Let me just make it this one. Oh, it's going to be hard. So I'm going to declare a new one, element, because now this is just a counter. I just don't want to mess up my counter. It will be messed up. So this is now this is, but I'm just going to lose time. I don't care about this. If I would like to make it random, I can make it random, but I don't care. I don't want. Now the question is, that's what I'm going to give it to you, and this is what you need to be able to do. Is this hard? Fine. Now let's just stop recording because that's finished. We finished this answering that.